My first claim is that suffering makes God's existence unlikely. Hey, nice to meet you. How are you?
Good. Repeat your claim one more time.
That suffering is unexpected if a good God exists.
Unexpected. So when you say unexpected, like you're caught off guard by it, or you're expecting like all good things to happen all the
That
time?
if I assume that there is a good God supervising, invigilating the universe, that I would not expect to see so much suffering.
Right.
I'm glad she asked this clarifying question. I think it's a very good question to start with, because saying something like expect is based on a subjective understanding. Whether or not you expect something to happen doesn't dictate whether or not something happened.
So much gratuitous, seemingly unnecessary suffering.
Right. And you know, the most beautiful thing is that our God is not unfamiliar with suffering as he suffered himself. So would you say that there is like some beauty in suffering in some way?
I would say that there can be sort of poetically, you can look at suffering and think that's a beautiful story, but I don't think that the person suffering, especially if they die as a direct result, might think that. Also, I think that if I knew someone whose child died of leukemia and suffered for it,
Right.
and I went to them and said, but hey, there's some beauty in the suffering, isn't there? I think I'd be kicked out of the funeral.
So appealing to someone's emotional status doesn't dictate whether or not something is true. This is a very slithery tactic. Whether or not you get kicked out the funeral doesn't dictate whether or not you're telling the truth. People always get kicked out of funerals for telling the truth because people say this isn't the time you're supposed to be telling the truth. Let's be clear.
Right. Well, I would say like the same thing for a woman giving birth, right? It's suffering, like it sucks, it hurts.
Sure. But imagine you could have the giving birth without the pain of giving birth.
Right.
Would you prefer that?
Of course, yeah. You
My preference is irrelevant. Again, what I prefer does not dictate what actually exists.
prefer that.
So then if God can bring about the good stuff without the bad stuff,
Right.
then there's no reason to bring about the bad stuff.
Right.
So what we have to show is why the bad stuff is necessary to
Because good can't exist without bad. Just like hot can't exist without cold. It's impossible.
bring about the good stuff. Otherwise, it's not justified.
Right. Well, could you say that the result of why we suffer is because of fall of man?
I would say not, because I don't believe in the fall of
Right,
man.
true.
But I also don't think that that explains non-human animal suffering.
It's very convenient to not believe in the reason we have suffering. He very conveniently doesn't believe the scripture that says the fall of man occurred, but he does believe in a part of scripture that says God's all powerful and good. That's very convenient, don't you think?